105?
Yeah, 105 races today on this opening day.
Alrighty, so race number 23 is going to have Cameron Spencer. Yes, I got your message, Dad. On the O2 sled from Flushing, Michigan. Bill Connell from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin on the 108. Trenton Johnson from Portage, Michigan on the 27X. Reed Klinger from Athens, Wisconsin on the 221. Kendra Westland from Strathcona, Minnesota on the 113. Tavish Perry from Eagle River on the 85X. Dylan Bradner from Medford, Wisconsin on the 2B. And Cale Balo from Waupun on the 34X.
So stacking them up here, F500, we're going to pick up the pace tremendously. 29 entries coming in here for this 22nd running of the Vintage World Championship Snowmobile races at Eagle River, Wisconsin. If you're tuning in watching on Facebook, welcome aboard here on FloRacing. So we get set to go and continue on through this day. And Becky, it looks like you got something to say.
I do. Kendra Westland, Papa Seasoning has $100 on you to win this race. You win this race, and Papa Seasonings has $100 for you.
We'll find out if she can pull it off. Bill Connell got the whole shot down the inside, 3 wide for the number 2 spot. Out turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Westland just getting abused in the middle of that. That was a Kendra sandwich down there, and unfortunately, she got shuffled back into P4. It's a little charge shot in the shorts, rider off, red flag coming out. Got unbalanced there, and that's one of the issues when on this ice oval race. You got to hang so much weight over the left-hand side to keep that thing glued down to the surface. If you get a little nudge or a little bump and you're not expecting it, just skadooch, you're off the sled and sitting on the ice. So a little check there. We'll get that sled fired back off again. But F500 coming out here, and as we mentioned, race number 23 on the day, 105 on tap on this opening night. We do race Friday night. Now tomorrow and Sunday, it's day racing only, so no nighttime portions over the next 2 days, but we will be racing tonight. So we fire up the sled, but here on this vintage weekend, the 113 sled making its way down in there, Kendra Westland. Got pinballed around a little bit, so yeah. But anywho, 756 entries on the weekend at this 22nd running. The Vintage World Championship Snowmobile races presented by Pitlick and Wick. So a beautiful field of sleds coming in here in Eagle River, Wisconsin, the World Championship Derby Complex. So we'll try this again. We did not score a lap into the books, just 3 laps the distance on these heat races. So we'll bring them down here to our floating starting line. I feel like I need to explain a couple things again since we're live on Facebook and maybe people checking us out have never seen ice oval racing. The starting line floats because of the hole shots. So they got picks or studs. In these tracks, you'll see the riders stand up and slam the sled down onto the ice. They're digging those picks down into the ice to get a good hole shot. And so you have to move the starting line around, or they'll just dig a big divot down into the racetrack. The marks, the colored marks you see on the ice, that is actually track lube. So the tracks are lubricated with a lube tank you see hanging on the back of the sleds there. Uses a biodegradable, basically RV antifreeze that lubricates the tracks. Normally when you ride a snowmobile, it's lubricated by the snow. In this case, that's not the case. So Kendra has to start back on that second row with the orange cone down there as she brought out the red flag. So she'll rotate around on the 113. We'll try this again.
Yeah, that is for a red flag or anybody who jumps the line. That's how far back they have to start. We haven't had any of that yet, thankfully.
Not so far. Everybody's been pretty patient here on the starting line. Todd getting ready to cut them loose. Green flag goes up. Hole shot again for the 221 sled. Reed Klinger down into the corner. Crosses over to the snoot. Hang on to it, Reed. We got one around and a rider off again. They're just not having a happy time. Unusual to see in this category, especially in the F500. So we'll get that one pointed around, but everybody going for that real estate down on the inside of the racetrack. It gets real crowded real fast in that general vicinity. So third time's a charm, perhaps. But sleds purpose-built out here. I say purpose-built. These were all factory sleds. Everything from the 1990s and older on this vintage weekend. Next weekend is the World Championship weekend. That's when you see your modern sleds coming out here in a little bigger CCs. Pretty much the biggest sleds that you see out here for the most part are 440s, although we do have the Relic Mod 800, which are absolutely incredible beasts. But Kendra picking up that green flag that time paid her penalty, so she gets to go back to the original starting line and will not have to start on the second row. So that was a lucky break for her.
It is, but now the 108 will have to be back there, and that's Bill Connell.
Yes, the Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin racer will have to start on the second row. Hey, if you want to tune in and watch more of this racing action, you do it with a FloRacing subscription or a Flow Sports subscription. And for those of you up here in the Northwoods, or if you are checking it out, one of the things I always like to remind you is your FloRacing subscription is good for everything on the Flow Sports Network, which includes hockey. And I mean a lot of hockey. I know there's a lot of hockey fans up here, but there's like 30,000 hockey games that take place on Flow Hockey, all part of that same subscription. You don't have to get a separate subscription for it. There's also all kinds of other cool sports out there. I think 25 different verticals on the Flow Sports Network. But one of the hockey arenas that's broadcast is located right here in Eagle River Falls, Eagle River, Wisconsin. Went and toured that facility last year. Actually, if you get up on the Flow Sports app, you can do a little search for it and check out that segment. So calm down here. We'll try this again. 3 laps of distance. Heat race number 1, F500. So 113, Kendra, you can slide up to the front row. She already paid her fine, we're going to say. So 108 sitting back there. Bill Connell, get ready to go. And it's going to be green flag. Coming out here is unfortunately there we go.
Yes, all drivers should make sure that their receivers are working before they enter the track.
So she wants to start back on the second row for some reason. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but Kendra opting to start second row. Talked to the official. She said, I want to be back there. So, yeah, her choice. So I think she's going to let things sort out. She feels better about maybe the start back there and can kind of see where people are going to be instead of being in the scrum down in turn number 1 and 2. Regardless, another good hole shot for Reed on the 221 sled. It's going to lead him out of turn number 2 yet again. They were 3 wide for third back on the field. Charge down into the corner. This should be interesting. Coming onto the front straightaway. A lot of speed being carried into the dust down that end of the racetrack. It's crossover move coming out of the 108. Bill Connell coming from the second row. He's already weaseled his way up to P3. As he works across the nose. Down into the corners. Up front still the 221 showing away. Reed Klinger's got a nice gap on him. Power slides it down into turn number 3 and 4. Drags the knee and brings her onto the front straightaway. Meanwhile, back behind, Connell now in P2 on the field. Kendra having some issues with her sled. That thing just not coming up to speed for whatever reason from back in the mid pack or back at the tail of the field, I should say. We're only taking the top 5 into the semi. As out of the corner we come. Checkered flag coming out on this first heat race for F500. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be a 34X. Hanging on to that final one for Kale. So that will do it for race number 23.
All right, so that'd be Reed Klinger, the 108 of Bill Connell, the 2B of Dylan Bradner, the 85 of Tavish Perry, and the 34X of Cale Bilo will move on to the semi. That was heat number 1 of 4 for the F500. There was 29 entries in this class. Race number 24, we are on. Top 5 move on to the semis. 3 laps in heat number 2 of the F500. Scheduled to be on the track, 7 drivers. Bad Axe, Michigan driver, Haven Bouvret on the 92. Austin Graber from Clear Lake, Minnesota on the 965. Brad Kolchak from Medford on the 257. Jay Slayer on the 757 from Medford. Zach Rogers from Wausau on the 21 sled. Nick Kurth from Wausau on the 98. And Ethan McGee from Shawano on the 2019 sled.
So heat race number 2, F500. Heat race number 2 of 4. Yep. Heat race number 2 of 4. Race number 24 on today. Race number 24 of 100 and 3 to 105 in there somewhere. 257 sled sitting on the outside, Brad Kolchak, Medford, Wisconsin racer. Getting ready to fire from the outside. 965 sled up to go down low, Austin Graber, Clear Lake, Minnesota racer. Choice of where you want to sit on the line. Come down here and stack up. There's a lot of different theories on how to make that happen. It's a good hole shot start across the board. 751 is going to be the first one down the corner. 757, Jace Layer. Able to get down on the inside, tries to carry speed onto the back chute and pulls out by 2 sled lengths. The run's around the outside, however. 257 to Brad Kolchak, making some big steam down into the corner. Goes rogue, way out towards the fence and gives those spots right back. So 965, look out, almost comes together against the fence. Layer's got to wrestle that thing around. He's going to give up even more distance. He's into slick stuff up high. Meanwhile, down low to the 92 of Haven Bouveret. Moves into P2 on the field. Haven now sets her sights on race leader and got a good slide down into the corner. Not necessarily the quick way to get around, as we got a tremendous battle taking place down at turn number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will move on. As Bouveret's trying to get that top spot away. Checkered flag coming out this time out. Turn number 4, we lost the sled off the surface there. Zach Rogers pulled to the infield. Meanwhile, checkered flag comes out up front, and the 757 is going to pick up the win. Jace Layer victorious, and he raced number 2 of 4 in the F500.
Moving on to the semi will be Jay Slayer on the 757 Haven Bouveret, the 965 of Austin Graber, the 98 of Nick Kurth, and the 257 of Brad Kolchak will move on to the semi. That was heat number 2 of the F500s. 7 more racers coming out for heat number 3, race number 25. Marcus Catlin from Merrill, Wisconsin on the 50 sled. James Jensen from Waukesha on the 1173. Danik Lambert from Sorel Tracy, Quebec on the number 3. Matthew Lovedale from Racine, Wisconsin on the 702. Austin Madison from Jefferson, Wisconsin on the 41. Michael Settle from Fairbanks, Alaska on the 21S, and the 33T sled of Tyler Foster from Fair Gove, Michigan.
So race number 25 on today, top 5 to advance. Set to roll down here to the Ultimax Performance Belts by Timken starting line as the Woody's traction control paddock area very busy back there. A lot of racers leaning on that fence. That is a strong fence. I don't know who put that in. But tip of the cap to him, because that thing is not pried up out of the ground, even though there's 500 people leaning on it. Of course, the ground's frozen, so that probably helps the situation, too. We get set to go. Again, heat race number 3 of 4. Super Stock 340 free air coming up after these 2 heat races for the F500 sleds. Is the corner official ready to send them down? One failing to fire back into Woody's traction control paddock area. You can see him yarding on that thing pretty hard. So not sure if we're going to be able to get that thing fired up or not. If he's not able to make the call out here, that'll eliminate one of the competitors. Again, only 5 will advance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means one of these sleds will not move on. Now 2. They did get it fired up. So 21 sled coming around here, 21S of Michael Settle. Fairbanks, Alaska is where he calls home. Shout out to the Alaskans coming down here and racing with us. We have a nice little contingency from that. Look at those white boots. Boy, they're nice boots. Fancy. Got a little fur around the top of them and everything. Is that Jessica? Looks like it might be Jessica. Calm down. Get set to go. 50 sled Marcus Caitlin down on the inside. Lining up. Well, and unfortunately, our 21S sled that we talked about firing off out of the Woody's traction control paddock area. Well, shut down on him. Now he's got to run it again. Needs to keep it running on the starting line. I think once she's gone, it'll go for the old Polaris. To find out, takes the inside line. 1173, the furthest one to the outside. James Jensen, Waukesha, Wisconsin racer. Glances across the line, and again the 21S shuts down. That thing's probably, he came out of Alaska, it's probably jetted for about 16,000 feet in altitude. Could be wrong on that. Todd trying to help him out. Yeah, so not sure exactly what's going on there, but whatever it is, it's not good. Well, we're going to have to send them around here, and unfortunately, F500 got to get a little air across the cylinder heads to keep these babies cool while we try to get the 21S fired off, and I don't think it's going to happen. Todd's getting tired. When Todd gets tired, that's not a good sign. We're going to bring out the tow board. Tough break. You make all the trip down here from Alaska and then have sled issues. So not sure exactly what's going on, but the tow board makes its way out onto the racetrack. We'll see if we can get him gathered up and back into the Woody's traction control paddock area. Somebody go get Francis and let him put his hands down in there again and see if he can get her fired up. He's got the magic hands. Well, tough break. So onto the tow board he goes. We'll fire off what we have out here on the ice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one sled will not advance. Now this heat race number 3 of 4 for the F500, but a tough break. And again, one of the nuances of racing these vintage sleds. These sleds have been around for a long time, and they're obviously super tuned and cranked up. And anytime you have something like that, they can be a little bit fickle whenever you get them out here onto the racetrack, as we all know. So go back and take a look at it, and I'm sure no shortage of people back in the pit area willing to help him out and see if he can get him running back out here again, as that is a long haul to make not to be able to race in your heat race. So let him get down in turn number 1 and 2. Todd says, all right, bring him down here. We'll try her again. So Marcus Catlin, Merrill, Wisconsin racer, the number 50 sled down on the inside. I always think they look like a killer whale, that front end that they put on those. I don't know why. I just have that impression. So next year, if somebody wants to graphic one up so it looks like a killer whale, I'd like it. 3 sled, shot out of a cannon there for Danik Lambert. Lambert down into the corner, kind of working the middle of the racetrack. Company coming out of the 50 sled down the inside. Lambert shrugs him off and moves into P1. 33T kind of closed on him down into the corner. Tyler Foster working just a bit higher on the racetrack. Goes to work on the 50 sled coming out of the corner. As a Marcus Catlin hanging on to P2 for now. Top 3 have gotten away from the rest of the field. And again, a persistent move to the outside. A lot of speed. He's got it. 33 Tia Foster moves into P2 on the field. Meanwhile, up front, the 3 sled running and gunning for Danik Lambert. Sorrel Tracy, Quebec racer, going to pick up the white flag and take it around one more time. Kind of single out and go fence post formation down into turn number 1 and 2. Everybody kind of working that bottom portion of the racetrack tight to the apron and onto the back straightaways. Up front, checkered flag comes out. The 3 sled handily picking up the win for Danik Lambert. See Coast out of the corner, reaches up, wipes off his face mask, gives a little point to the checkered flag. He says, yeah, that's mine. I got it. Heat race number 3 goes into the books.
All righty, Danik Lambert, the 33T of Tyler Foster, the 50 of Marcus Catlin, the 1173 of James Jensen, and the 702 of Matthew Lovedale will move on. That was heat number 3 of 4 for the F500s. Race number 26. 7 racers scheduled to be out here. Eric Strabhar from Ridgeway, Wisconsin on the 45 sled. Zach Onsen from Weston on the 51. Connor Ballman from Mosinee on the 99. Jonathan Proctor from Trufant, Michigan on the 686. From Ironwood, Michigan, David Strand on the 1140. Daytona Gould from Dexter, Maine on the 25, and Scott Copeland from Stratford, New Hampshire on the 55.
Well, it's all fun and games till the Pabst Blue Ribbon Ride comes out onto the ice. Be ready. So we get set to cut them loose here on this final heat race for F500. Lined up way to the outside, keeping an eye on Todd there for the number 51 is Zach Onsen. And ready to cut them loose. Almost jump start there. 55 going to have the advantage getting down into the corner for Scott Copeland. Copeland rotates very well on the bottom. Boy, that thing's got a nice attitude to it. Able to get out of the way. That's no. Boy, I thought he had it. He thought he had it. Everybody thought he had it there about 5 or 6 or 7 times as he went halfway down the straightaway, kind of bebopping around on the right-hand ski going for a world record. He's unfortunately got power slammed down into the ice himself, and you saw the face mask blown off his helmet and number plate off of it, and I think he lost the change out of his pocket as well. Up and moving around, though. We'll get him gathered up along with all his parts and pieces back here and see if he can get down here to the... I think that's his bib number right there. You get whacked down onto the ice hard enough, it blows your bib number off. You know you did something. I'd have to lay back here and gasp like a fish out of water for a little while if that had been me. So get him gathered up on the tow board. Back down to the Woody's traction control panic area and see if he's able to continue on. 6 sleds so far waiting. It'll be a complete restart coming at us here in this final heat race for the F500. And I will say this is the biggest struggle we've seen out of F500 in quite some time. So we try to work through these heat races. 29 entries for that. Superstock 340 free air coming up next. That's 1985 and older sleds into Superstock 340 free air. And this is going to be their semifinal rounds coming up, so 2 rounds for them, 3 laps of distance. Top 5 will advance into the final round. And then Supermod 340 liquid cooled will follow after that as we work through our races today. And again, race number 26 of 75 for the daytime portion, and racing tonight during Friday Night Lightning taking place as well as we send him back down there. It looks like he will be able to continue on, so did not go on the tow board. That's one of the things we need to point out as well. If you go on that tow board, you are done. You are going into the paddock area. You will not be able to continue on. So if you accept the tow board, you accept the fact that you are eliminated from competition. So they check the ski hoops on the front of him. Yeah, for this race. They check the ski hoops on the front. It looks like he's good to go, so we'll send him down there. Face mask no longer present on his helmet. That got blown off there on the back chute, and have to make some repairs to that, but will be able to try to at least race his way into the field. So we'll call him back down here. We'll try this again. Copeland, New Hampshire racer, down on the inside. And again, 20 states and 3 Canadian provinces represented out here today in the field. 756 entries for the weekend. Is the 1140 sled going to start back here on row number 2. Able to slide forward a little bit if he wants to. He does have goggles underneath his helmets. We're going to ease him forward just a little bit. Set to go. Onsen still setting up on the outside. That 51 sled. Todd gives him a once-over. Green set to go up. And we're underway. Well, it was an even start across the board down into the corner. We're going to get crowded again for that number 2 position at least coming out of the corner. They were 3 wide. 45 trying to get by down on the inside. Eric Stonbauer. Straubauer trying to make a move into P2 on the field is up front. Race leader bringing it across, and here comes the Pabst Blue Ribbon Ride. Told you to watch that 686 of Jonathan Proctor. Proctor working P2. Look out, not a lot of grip, and the tail feathers of that one as the back end kind of washed out from underneath him. He gets back to the whip, though, down the back straightaway in hot pursuit. It's Copeland up front, 55, holding down that P1 spot. Back behind Proctor, giving it the goose out of turn number 4 and down the front chute. 45 sled of Stonbauer right there as well. As Eric runs her deep down into turn number 1. Can't quite get back to the throttle quick enough to make a move on second on the field. It's a checkered flag coming out up front, and has a blistering pace in the P1 position. My goodness. 55 picks up the checkered flag, puts her into the books. Copeland looking stouts here in the F500 category. So that will do it for race number 26.
And the top 5 that will move on, the 55 of Scott Copeland, the 686 of Jonathan Proctor, the 45 of Eric